Well, good evening and welcome to the program. This is the Limelight and my name is Prince Apollo. And this evening we look back at social protection, our set of policies and programs that target helping the vulnerable in our society. And as we speak, consultative workshops are going on, of course, spearheaded by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, together with local governments as well as civil society organizations on how best the budget for the next financial year can be more participatory and consultative. But like I said, specifically we'll be looking at the budget for social protection, which is geared at helping the vulnerable in the society. How is this component catered for during these consultative budgets that are going on? I happen to have in the studio Mr. Patrick Katabazi Chichoncho, one of those advocates for improved social protection budgets. And he will be, of course, giving us his perspective on what is transpiring in these consultative conferences in relation to social protection. Patrick, welcome to the program. Quickly, tell us what are your key concerns as these consultative workshops are going on in line with social protection?
Yes, Apollo, thank you very much for inviting me to the show, and I also want to thank Soul TV for having a keen eye on matters that affect our people, especially the vulnerable people in our society. And it is very important to underscore the fact that our budget cycle is 360 degrees. It means that as one is ending, another one is starting, and another one is starting at the same time. For example, we have the budget that has started on the 1st of July for 2024, but hardly 3 months after July, here again we are starting a new budget cycle, and as we speak, the consultative budget consultative workshops are taking place. We just had a national budget consultative workshop, and now we are having the local government budget consultative workshops that are happening in all districts across the country. And that becomes a very, very important opportunity for the country to discuss key things that affect our people. We are talking about children, we are talking about youth, we are talking about women and older persons. To answer your question, for example, now we know that in this current budget, the older persons under the Social Assistance Grants for Empowerment, that is SAGE, had a budget of 121 billion, and Parliament and Government General was able to allocate only 100 billion, and that left a shortfall. Here it is necessary that government passes a supplementary budget of 21 billion to cover for that shortfall, because if they don't, you will have over 60,000 older persons who are going to miss out of this money. Remember, you have about 360 older persons who are supposed to be getting this money every month. So if the budget is not adequate, you will find there are some who are going to miss, or if it is implemented the way it is, you will have only 8 months worth of resources for older persons. Then you also have a lingering issue in Kampala that has been in Kampala and a few urban centers of street children.
Street children?
Yes. Street children, there is no budget that has been made. There is a significant shortfall in the Ministry of Gender for money that is supposed to be dealing with issues of street children, and also resources to cater for children who are in reception centers. We are talking about remand homes. We are talking about other institutions that are responsible for children. Then the other area of concern is on special enterprise fund for older persons. Of course, we know that older persons are not bankable. They are not employable. They are not insurable by their nature of that age as a vulnerability. To which extent then, government put in place a fund so that older persons can pick money and be able to use it for their own enterprises. So they have a very, very modest budget of 5 billion. The budget, government was only able to provide 3. There was a shortfall of 3, rather of 2. So that is a very, 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 very important area that the government needs to look at, so that now in this new budget cycle that has just begun, that is covered, and we don't see some of these shortfalls coming ahead. But more significantly, and especially so because now these budgets are now within the local government setting, we have social sector development grant that goes to every district.
Okay.
So every district ordinarily receives money from the center, from the Ministry of Gender and Social Development Center, to support the community development function. This is now where operations take place. SAGE happens at the district. Issues of disability, they happen at the district.
Oh, yeah.
Issue of women, children, youth happen at the district. And now, the community development officers play a very critical role in those sectors that I have highlighted. Now, against the budget of 14 billion, only about 7 billion has been available consistently over time.
Wow.
And that is precisely half. And that, in my view, undermines the role the social development function plays in ensuring that programs of vulnerable persons are well implemented. And I can go on and on because the social development sector is very, very, very wide. Issues of protection, social protection, are extremely, they are big. Of course, I did not talk about the special grants for persons with disabilities, which were at 16 billion and only 8 billion has been provided, leaving a shortfall of another 8 billion.
Patrick, are you saying this time round, as the budget process starts, there should be special consideration for the budget for social protection?
I have 2 calls. Call number 1 is to ensure that government provides supplementary financing to cover for this shortfall.
Okay.
And that now, early on in the budget process that has just begun, let us ensure that the challenges of the last time's budget are not repeated. That this particular time, let us have everything to the dot so that we don't have to have back and forth with the Minister of Finance, with the government, with the Parliament, regarding some of these shortfalls that should have been avoided in the first place.
Okay. During these consultative workshops, from your experience, do such issues like social protection, are they given real due attention?
Yes, it is a yes and no. Yes, because in a typical budget consultative workshop, different stakeholders are given an opportunity to make presentations. Private sector comes in, civil society organization, they come in, members of parliament, individual members of parliament also come in at various levels to provide input. Government departments, local governments are given an opportunity. MDAs are given an opportunity. And as such, it is envisaged that a collection of these views will then form what we call a budget, a consensus budget. So that is the yes bit of it. The no bit of it is that in many cases, it ends at making these presentations. And you don't see these issues getting through all the stages up to the final budget framework paper document. And sometimes even when it is there, we have had scenarios where Parliament even considers the national budget framework paper and approves it with some of these monies there. And when it comes to the budget estimates, to which are supposed to drive now the appropriation bill, money gets lost in between. So we still have some of these loopholes that are part and parcel of our budgeting process, which is sometimes less predictable. But it would be very important to start with these issues highlighted from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
So that you can track. If we have highlighted them at the consultative stage, and we have ensured that they are at the budget framework paper stage, and they have been approved by Parliament, then it gives us room to cross-check and see whether they have been captured in the ministerial policy statements, in the budget estimates, and then ultimately in the appropriation bill And if that is passed, of course, that is what becomes the budget.
Wow.
So it's advocacy generally is a process that you have to keep
pushing.
Yes, you have to have an eye at the process to ensure that all your issues at every step of the way are captured. When you blink, other things happen, and that's why it becomes very important. And we are thankful to Sol TV for providing an opportunity and space for us to highlight issues that affect our people and how and why we need them to be followed through. Of course, social protection, like here we are talking about monies now, but you can also go broad and talk about education. Education is a social protection component.
Sure.
Because you're dealing with our children. You're talking about performance in school, you're talking about feeding. You're talking about 30% of our children who are stunted. So a child who is stunted cannot perform very well in school. That will be somebody who is less likely going to be employed. That's a social protection component. If you're not employable, then you're not going to have income. If you're not going to have adequate income, then possibly you cannot save with the NSSF. Possibly you cannot add a pension. And then you become a burden. And poverty then ultimately arises. So you're talking about health. So if we are not planning very well for our health, health consumes a significant portion of our income.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're sick all the time, number one, you're not going to work. Number two, you are going to spend even the little money that you otherwise have.
Towards health.
Yes, toward health. And then you cannot, therefore, be competitive in the market in case you had a business. You've seen many people who fall sick and the business is closed. So these issues are critical. So you can talk about social protection in a way of dealing with those who are vulnerable. But you can also talk about it backwards to prevent vulnerability. So if you have a robust education system, you have a robust health care system, you have skilling, people are getting skills and they are employed, then you're minimizing costs that are likely to come ahead. So for example, if you have a robust pension system,
which we do not have.
Would you need SAGE?
Not really.
Yes. If I know that when I retire, I'm going to get my monthly pension, do I need SAGE from government?
Not really.
If you have special programs that get people into employment, which employment then enables them to make contributions for their future social security, would they need some of these programs? So you can talk about it two ways. One way is that we already have a problem. We already have older persons who are not covered by any form of social protection. We need to cover. You have persons with disabilities. People are already disabled. There's certainly not so much that you can do about it. Provide for them. But you can also look at the current population that is not yet vulnerable, that has potential
to slip into vulnerability.
Yes. So how do you safeguard that population?
Well, Patrick, finally from you, these vulnerable groups have representatives at all levels. Even in Parliament, they have representatives. Do they look at this problem within the broader context which you have explained?
No, I think you see, social protection is an emerging, in my view, is still an emerging concept. You still have people at various levels who have not yet understood what this is all about. Or they do it, but they don't know that that's exactly what they're doing. There are many people you talk to, and when you talk about social protection, they talk about SAGE, money for older persons.
Oh, honorary SAGE.
Yet they cannot appreciate that we are talking about life cycle. You have children in there, you have youth. The whole cycle when a person gets into this world up to the time when they leave. All that entire cycle is social protection. So we're still dealing with issues of apathy, and that's why we need programs like this to ensure that people get to know. We still have leaders who may not know exactly what to do, who still consider some of these social protection as consumptive, not as developmental programs. And as such, it becomes very difficult sometimes to even say, since you already have, for example, members of parliament representing older persons, then their issues should be covered, and nobody should talk about them. Or you have youth members of parliament, so issues of youth, don't talk about them because they're already represented. And that's why all of us, the media, the civil society, the private sector, we have to keep talking about these things, providing input, so that we supplement the efforts that are made by the leaders who are understanding these things and also educate those who are still catching up.
Our time is running out. If I may get your parting shot on this issue of social protection in relation to the budget process that has just started.
So on direct on the direct financing from government, there's a shortfall in the budget for the last year of 30 billion. That supplementary budget is very important and is needed. But then also to ensure that the same funding up should not arise with this new cycle that we have just started. But also to underscore the importance of social protection as now a worldwide recognized tool for fighting poverty. And because of our high poverty levels in Uganda and Africa in general, it is high time we prioritized spending, social sector spending, social protection spending.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And Patrick is one of those strong advocates for a stronger social protection policy to cushion the vulnerable of our society in times of need. And well, as the budgeting process starts and goes on, we expect that these issues can be highlighted in light to see that the needs of the vulnerable in our societies are catered for. And disturbing trend is that even older persons, Patrick, the number of older persons is increasing every year in Uganda, and
we
that
are living
means
longer than we used to be.
That indeed requires a strong and comprehensive social protection policy in Uganda.
Absolutely.
Well, good evening. Let's catch up again next Friday in another edition of the Limelight. We've talked about social protection in the context of budget consultations which are going on at local government level, but we hope that these issues will be kept in the light for the betterment of our vulnerable groups. Thank you so much. From here, we will go into Emisinji exactly at 8, but after that, we'll have the news at 9 coming up. But after the news, we go straight to Canaland where there is a power packed overnight. Good evening and God bless you. God bless Uganda.